got my hands on an 86 and it is like 100 degrees out right now and I'm sweating all over. Here we are in Hoboken, New Jersey in the parking garage. Gonna do our parking garage test and then I'm gonna take you guys through regular city street driving and then we'll do our road test to see how this car really performs under load, under wide open throttle, etc. Which should be fun because it's a light, nimble car. So far, driving it here, the car seems pretty agile, pretty livable. Seems like it could be a contender for one of the best daily drivers. Will it actually be better than my favorite daily driver, my personal car, a BMW 3 Series? We will see. We'll find out. Stay tuned to the end of the video, but until then, let's do the parking garage test. No real special noises coming from this one, unlike the Mustang EcoBoost. But again, that was a bigger motor along with turbocharged. So yeah, so far so good. I really like the seating position of the car. The visibility on the car is better than I expected. Yeah, in person you start to realize the car is a lot smaller than it actually is. So what would look like gigantic side mirrors on this car, in reality they're literally about the size of my hand, which is, considering they're on a car, it's not that bad. You can tell a lot of the cars that were once in this parking garage are no longer here due to COVID and pandemic and people sort of moving out of the city and back into the burbs. But we still got some cool ones here. EK Honda Civic. That Land Rover is still in here, as seen on my Instagram. Saw a 235i just now. Not the Grand Coupe, not the new one, because we all know it doesn't look good. But the sleeker one, which would be one of my candidates if I were to get like a new daily driver. But for now, my 3 Series will do, because we're not exactly made of money here. Almost there. See, I have this terrible habit of starting these videos on the very top floor, but then again, it allows me to maneuver the car around these tight corners, low visibility, so I can accurately do the test. Alright, pay station, here we are. Gonna slide my ticket in. I can get nice and close up to the terminal. Seatbelt, no, I gotta take it off, can't access my pocket. Parking ticket, insert that. Insert credit card, yep, that's the Japanese flag. Don't worry, I won't be biased in this video that I'm doing. There we go. And we're outside. Wow, I might have to put my shades on for this because it's about to be sunset. So yeah, like I mentioned earlier, 200 horsepower, 150 torque. Whatever, the power figures don't really matter because it's a stock 86 or FRS, since this is a 2013 FRS. These cars are notorious for being underpowered. So as a result of that, my area of focus for this video that I'm doing is going to be more so on how livable it is and how nimble and agile it is. And it's very, the steering input is heavier than I anticipated, but that sort of gives me almost like a direct feel. I would say it's a little bit bigger than my RX-7, which is, again, that's a two-seater car. This does have a rear seat, but it's not exactly, you know, the biggest one out there, but it's there and it has decent trunk space where I can fit both of my camera cases, so that's a plus. Now it is 6:29 p.m. right now and I was expecting more rush hour traffic coming out of Hoboken here, but it doesn't look like there's much going on and a lot of people are working remotely due to what's happening out in the world. So the exit out of the city is pretty smooth so far. The visibility in this car is amazing, no complaints there. And I can adjust the seat however I want. I have a good visibility of the controls. I mean, it's a 2013, so we don't have any CarPlay or fancy pants new features in here. But in my opinion, if you are buying this car, you shouldn't necessarily go for like the newer one, because the chassis is essentially the same across all the years that it's been out. There might be some tuning changes and enhancements for the most recent years, and I think the car gained like 10 horsepower or so in like the new model, but aside from that, everything is pretty much the same. Obviously, it's an entry-level car, right? So you might see some of the interior trim a bit, you know, scratched up, like normal wear and tear, but that's nothing out of the ordinary in it. It is not going to take away from the experience of actually driving or owning the car. The sound that the car, I mean, it's underwhelming. The car doesn't exactly sound amazing. But in terms of the exterior looks department, I absolutely love this thing. I've always been a huge fan of the new 86 design. So even though this car is in silver, my least favorite color, it still, you know, ticks the box for me in terms of exterior styling. All right, here we are in this interior. I'm gonna do this handheld because I don't have a sunroof to mount my fancy pants camera rig on. So it'll be easier if I just take you guys through this from a first person point of view. So anyway, I mean, it's pretty simple. All right, you got the old Scion logo that's no more, so I guess this is like a bit of a relic now. And you have the gauge cluster. Big numbers, wide dial, everything is clear to see, digital speedometer, nice and simple, and everything is there. Vents, they can shut like this, sort of like a 350Z. Vents up here, you got this fake carbon, strange looking, maybe vinyl thing, which I'm not a big fan of, but I mean, it's there, and it doesn't, I guess, take away from the rest of the interior, which is like the sporty racing type of interior, considering, you know, how the seats are designed, and these rear seats, which I don't really know what purpose they might have besides folding down for more luggage and things like that. Now, one thing I did want to mention is that this is the center armrest is like a $200 factory option if you look it up nowadays, which in my opinion, it's not really necessary, because if you think about it in a normal resting position, if I'm just having my arm here behind the wheel, I tend to just rest my arm on the handbrake anyway. Makes sense? And then if you are shifting, you shift and then you rest. Shift, rest. You rest it here, or you're 10 and 2 like a good driver that you should be. Got my phone here, this little compartment. Your usual dials for the AC and climate control. A very satisfying hazard switch. Listen to this. I don't know why, but that's so satisfying. Digital clock, which is a cool touch because it avoids from having to look at the screen and all these different numbers and symbols, and maybe it's a touch screen, so older people might get confused using it. So if you want to look at the time, just look here and it's right there for you. Oh, it'll always be there. Traction control off. Traction control off. So yeah, I guess this is just fun mode. Snow mode. But yeah, that's the general view of the interior. Now, for those of you who don't really know the car, which I'm pretty sure at this point, if you're watching car videos on YouTube, you probably know what the 86 is and the heritage behind the AE86, the original Toyota's Terreno Sprinter 4AG. That was popular in the initial D manga, and I did speak about how that inspired me when I was a kid, if you guys want to go and watch that video. But this car and this chassis was sort of based off of that idea behind the old AE86, which was the chassis code for the old Toyota Corolla back in the 80s. The chassis itself was based off of a very light and nimble design philosophy, and the appeal of the car was primarily that it did very well in the corners. It didn't have a lot of power, but as soon as you turn the wheel, it put a smile on your face, and I'm pretty sure this does the same exact thing, which is why this car excites me and a lot of other car enthusiasts all around the world.
What it will do, though, is put a massive smile on the face of every motoring enthusiast in the world.
Oh, come on, you thought I'd get an 86 and not do a mountain road test? Here we go. Now, as I make a left turn up that stretch of road and start going up the hill, you guys are gonna get a first-hand experience as to what one of the funnest roads looks like in Jersey for a car guy to drive on. Here we go, up the steep hill. Low car guys, be aware. So is this a good car? Yeah, it is. This is actually one of my most favorite cars. And one reason for that is actually the fact that it is a Toyota, and it comes with the Toyota reliability. When it comes to manufacturing and their efficiency, Toyota is one of the best companies in the world, and because of that, you can very easily find parts and get your car serviced very quickly, very cheaply, and this overall becomes that much better of a driver's car because of the fact that you can very easily replace and fix parts either by going to the dealer or doing it in your garage at home. And I think Toyota purposely made it easy to work on because they knew the aftermarket was going to take care of a lot of the gaps that this car has, primarily when it comes to the dip in the torque curve at high RPMs. You got the sound, you got throttle response is pretty good, but it can be better. intakes and exhaust can fix that, obviously. The diff that the car comes with, it is a viscous diff, but it does do its job. But if you want to go drifting and use this car primarily for track days, I would suggest a 1.5 or two-way diff. And there's plenty of aftermarket options out there. On top of that, the suspension could use a little bit of work because I was understeering. Part of it is the tires, obviously, which we can all change. Maybe a little bit better damping in the front would go a long way. Aside from that, I mean, in terms of an everyday commuter car or everyday regular car that you use to go grocery shopping, go to school, go to work, wherever, it is a great car. The silhouette of this car and the overarching fenders on this thing actually make it look really nice, and it gives the car a lot of personality. So this honestly is one of my favorite driver's cars. So used, I think you can find them for about $17,000-$18,000, which is not too bad considering you get almost a brand new car. This car does have 53,000 miles on it, so you know, been through its paces, and it is a rental car, so I'm sure newer ones would have less annoying body trim on the inside, you know, cleaner looking interior, an updated sound system. But again, these are all things that would get better as time goes on and cheaper. So this is a 2013. My BMW 3 Series is a 2013. So if we're looking at used daily drivers, in my opinion, the BMW is miles ahead of this thing. And for the price that you get it for, which is about $10,000 for my make and model, with the approximate same amount of mileage, which is about 80,000 miles. Yeah, the BMW definitely is heaps better. The only problem is the service. I recently did an oil filter gasket replacement, and the dealer quoted me about $1,000 just to change that one item. But I wound up going to obviously an alternative BMW service provider, and they quoted me about $1,300 for everything said and done. So when it comes to situations like that, you really gotta search high and low for cheaper alternatives to sort of maintain the car, versus this car, I'm pretty sure you can just maintain it on your own at home. So that's definitely a giant upside, and I'm pretty sure this car will last forever as long as you know, change the oil regularly and maintain it right, and not go too crazy with it, redlining it past 7,500. It's a good car. It's a well-made car for what you get for how much you pay. So far in my book, out of all the videos that I've made, is it my personal favorite daily driver? No. Again, that's the 3 Series. But in terms of a pure driver's car, I would recommend this car over the 3 Series. It's all about what you're looking for. This car is smaller, has a smaller back seat, smaller trunk than the 3 Series, but it's a smaller footprint than the 3 Series as well. So it's light, nimble, agile. You can drive it and park it in the city without worrying too much. And considering the fact that it is a Toyota, you're less paranoid about somebody scratching or dinging your car because it's just a Toyota. That's some sort of mentality that you can have by owning this car versus a BMW. BMW paint and bodywork is naturally more expensive, so if you were to repair something on your own, you got to spend an arm and a leg. And that's just a matter of fact. Because bodywork in and of itself, it doesn't discriminate based on what type of car you have. It just discriminates based on the amount of damage that you have. The trunk has enough space for camera gear and then some. So I guess if you're going to the track, it has enough for a pair of tires and maybe like a small bag for your tools. And it does roll down, so all that's there. Overall, the convenience of this car and the fact that it's so easy to just get in and drive just makes it probably one of the best cars I've ever driven. Don't expect anything like groundbreaking or special though. It is just a regular car with a regular engine, not that much power. But the real kick of this thing is the fact that you really have to throw it hard against a corner, and then you'll understand why this car is so fun. Otherwise, it's just another regular car. And I think that was part of the reason why this was branded as a Scion and not like a Toyota sports car or an 86, because they're catering to the younger crowd. Obviously, Scion is no more. This is a Toyota 86 now, and a part of the appeal with that car, at least from a marketing perspective, is the fact that it is a driver's car. So keep that in mind. I mean, you're not gonna find anything special here. Everything is just normal. You got dials for the AC. You got a clicky little button. I love this thing for the hazard lights. You got an analog digital clock because it's not in the head unit. The speakers could be better, but you can always change those. Everything is just good enough. Nothing's too amazing. The only one thing that's amazing about this car is the chassis and how it's very balanced. And that's one thing that only I think true drivers will appreciate versus your everyday commuter or your everyday driver. This is sort of like a hidden gem still, in my opinion, for the normal consumer, because of the fact that you won't understand any of it until you just throw it hard around the corner. And obviously I didn't have the luxury of trying out a 6-speed, which is unfortunate, but I did have the manual shifting mode and it does go in and out of gear very quickly. And while I was in 3rd gear for a lot of the mountain driving that I was doing, it did feel very responsive, and it stayed in gear and didn't change unless I wanted it to. So that's good. It's not like one of the newer luxury cars where they just shift for you anyway. That's a bit silly to me. Yeah, but aside from that, it's the 86. If you're a driver's driver, get it, definitely. If you're looking for power, maybe get a Mustang or something instead. Yeah, the 86, nothing special until you thrash it. Thanks for watching. These cars are notorious for being underpowered. Wow, old school 318. It's so hot. How are people driving with their windows down? All you're getting is a slap in the face of hot air. How do people do that?